So today we have three speakers who are going to share with you their experience in building a seed brand. We have Petra Page-Mann from Fruition Seeds, Daniel Brisebois from Tourne-Sol Cooperative in Canada, and Erica Kempter and Mike Levine from Nature and Nurture Seeds in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So with that, they have a lot to share, and I'm pleased to see all your faces on the screen today. And I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to Petra. Oh, real quick, questions. There's a lot of information to share today. So questions are most welcome in the chat, and we will try to address those as we go. I'll try to keep track of those questions as they come in. You don't have to wait to the end because you might forget something, but we're going to hold off and save some space for a Q&A discussion at the end. So with that, go ahead, Petra. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Michaela. It's so good to see you and to see you all in as much of 2 or 3 dimensions as we might find ourselves in. And we'd love to just welcome you to this moment. And we'd love to share this reflection before we dive in. And Dan, let's go to the next slide. Where are we? We love everyone here and everyone listening afterward, everyone who seeks to be and to see the change we wish to see in the world, especially in the context of creating a business or some other cultural being around the seeds we love. And so I would love to share some thoughts for the next couple minutes. And these thoughts are a critique of systems rather than our souls. They're a critique of the constructs we find ourselves in rather than our individual or even collective characters. This conversation we're about to share about marketing, branding, building a business, this is embedded in the architecture we've been given and the water we swim in. And this water is neoliberal, business-centric, colonized, market-oriented, policy-supported. It increases privatization in the world. Whiteness, patriarchy uphold these systems. This is the water we swim in. And so in a seed system, as a seed business, what does this look like? We believe seeds are ours to share, monetize, that varieties and companies are framed as individual acts, that business is at the heart of seeds being bought and sold rather than shared as a commons in community. Neoliberalism tells us that business can change the world, and it allows us to feel okay sometimes in the midst of oppression that we both receive and perpetuate. And especially if we have ours, even a tiny slice of the pie, we uphold these systems because they're organic seeds, right? So the uncomfortable truth as we begin is that we, Fruition, myself, hi, my name is Petra, myself at the top of the list, maintain colonial extractive control of the seeds and stories that we share and are in relationship with. And this will take generations of unlearning. So I'd love to offer 3 thoughts and some words, which I guess are thoughts too, right? 3 thoughts. 1, we can not see this and we can continue our work. We can see this. We can also ignore this. We can also see these things, sit with the discomfort, commit to the journey with friends. Hi, my name is Petra. And here we are, and begin again every day. So I would like to share these words now from Rowan White, who I heard share these words with me many years ago at an OSA conference. Along the lines of 150 years ago, seed companies didn't exist. And if we do our work well, in 150 years, seed companies won't need to exist. What does this look like? in our lifetimes, knowing that this is work that we won't live to see the end of. So I'm delighted to share a conversation with Erica and Mike, with Dan, with you all. Here we are. And next slide. Yes, who are we? Since I've already been talking for several minutes already, I'm just going to continue saying, hi, I'm Petra. And I'm Petra Page-Mann. Next slide. And I am sending you love from the fields, farms, forests of unceded Haudenosaunee land here in Western New York. And Matthew and I founded Fruition Seeds in 2012. And next slide. When people ask us if we have children, we say yes, and great-great-grandchildren. And they grow us more than we grow them. We put them in packets. And next slide. There are 12 of us now at Fruition, and deeply wondering about all of these things that we are talking about today, not claiming to do any of them well. We've learned a lot in joy and sadness, and are grateful to share everything that we've learned about being human and being a better human. And oh my goodness, next slide, and take it away, Erica and Mike.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Levine from Nature and Nurture, and I'm going to talk a little bit about marketing and branding. The first thing I want to say is this. Just one second. The most important thing with branding and marketing is to have a mascot, and this is ours. This is Kiwi. She's wonderful. Hi, Kiwi. She is our dogter. That's just an example of trying to bring a lighter tone, love, and humor to this work of marketing. So Nature and Nurture is an organic seed company and farm near Ann Arbor, Michigan, that focuses on Midwest or Great Lakes adapted vegetable and flower varieties. We grow some of the seeds we sell on our farm and contract some out too. We found that in order to keep our farm, we really have to hustle. We wear many hats and have lots of other enterprises and partnerships besides the seed company, like our fruit nursery and orchard, our shiitake operation, our residential organic landscape gardening service, produce business, hay fields, our farm internship program, children's education program, and lots more. So we're always doing lots of stuff around here, and we're not a very big company. So before COVID, we were a small, struggling startup seed company. We invested everything we had into our farm and seed business. And after a few years, we were wondering if we were going to make it. Next slide, please. Then COVID happened. And overnight, we went from being a startup seed company to being a reputable small seed company. Luckily, we had just returned from a 7-event marketing blitz during that January and February, and we were prepared for and expecting some growth, so we were able to fulfill the increased number of seed orders. We really lucked out there. With the COVID bump and the Michigan lockdown in March, we were suddenly without employees because our office is in our house and it wasn't safe to invite them back in. So Erica and I recruited our elderly parents to help fill seed packets, while Erica and I processed and shipped orders 10 hours a day, 7 days a week for months. So a little public service announcement. I know it's been really hard for everyone these past couple of years. Everyone's got their own story as to why and how it was hard. And I just want to acknowledge that and remind everyone to be patient with one another, and remember that everyone is struggling in some way or another right now. So please remember to be patient, ask questions if you don't understand something, and be kind to one another. So with COVID, our sales increased 418% overnight in 2020, but we're mostly flat in 2021. I think we saw an increase of around 5% last year. This is a huge relief that we had the growth the first year, because it's been a real financial struggle for us. It's not over, but it's feeling like we might be around for a while now, and some of the burden has been lifted because we used some COVID grant money to turn our garage into a new insulated employee HQ order fulfillment center with its own HVAC system. So there's a picture up top with, that's our farm crew from a couple years ago. We're actually, most of the people in the picture are interns. So usually our staff is, we run usually about 5 people, basically 3 part-time employees and Erica and I full-time. So 85% of our sales are from people who live in the 6 states of the upper Midwest: Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. And our sales show that 60% of our customers are people from Michigan. So that sums up who we are for today. I'll pass it over to Dan.
So I'm Dan, and I'm part of Tourne-Sol Cooperative Farm. And this is an outdated picture of our farm team, but we, recently haven't been able to take pictures of everybody close together, so I don't have a newer one. We started Tourne-Sol Farm in the fall of 2004. 5 of us met studying agriculture at McGill University McDonald campus, and we became really good friends. And then we worked on farms during the summer, and sort of after our studies, we were ready to start our own farm, and we decided to start together. So the 5 of us started as a worker co-op, and the farm has grown since then. 2 of our longer term employees have become members, so now we're 7 co-op members, and we're about 21 people total in the whole farm. And anybody who's working with us more than 18 months can become a co-op member. So we're hoping to see more people become co-op members over time, if they want to make that step. And initially, we were predominantly vegetable growers. We had start with CSA and a couple farmers markets, and we sold about $700 of seeds in our first year to other seed companies, to 2 seed companies. And our seed business, or both our seed and vegetable business, have grown over these last, 17 years. And at this point, we're doing 500 weekly CSA shares. We've dropped farmers markets because we like our weekends, but our seed company is larger than our vegetable business at this point. We grow about 6 acres of vegetables and about 1 acre of seeds, and we're kind of at the limit of what we can actually fit in what we can actually fit in our system without expanding on new land. So we do have a network of people who grow for us. A number of former employees are growing seed for us and friends, and then we're getting seed from people across Canada and also in the States too. We're based out of, we're near Montreal, just so in Canada. I think that's the core stuff. I also have another hat, which I won't be talking with as much in this presentation, but I'm part of the seed business talk after at, I guess, 5 p.m. Eastern, where I'll be talking a lot more about spreadsheets. And this is my other hat as a Farmer Spreadsheet Academy, where I like to write poems and informational stuff about spreadsheets and all that. So that's who I am.
We'd kind of love to share this thought also of just, what is a brand anyway? And I agree, Kiwi, mascots are very important. And that's a little poncho on the screen, one of our 2 little mascots here on the farm. This is a cordial invitation also. If you're ever in Western New York and the Finger Lakes, please don't be shy. And I wanted to just share this quote. I love Seth Godin. And if you don't already follow his and receive his daily blog, it's pretty remarkable. I know Dan and I have talked about Seth for years. Yes, he has all kinds of excellent thoughts on all kinds of things. But here is his take on what a brand is. A brand is the set of expectations, memories, stories, relationships that, woven together, account for a person's decision to choose one product or service over another. And I'd love to just offer for our time today, what if a brand is the set of expectations, memories, stories, relationships that, when woven together, align our deepest values and actions to continually bring to life the world we dream of. I think a lot of thinking about branding and marketing is changing constantly, and is really different than it was even 10 years ago, certainly a generation or 3 ago. And just an invitation, we get to make it up as we go. No one knows what they're doing is another way of saying that. And also just wanting, well, let me not go down that rabbit hole. Dan, next slide. So we want to now share some reflections on relationships, and also just to tune you all in. Where are we going? We're going to kind of roundtable, the 4 of us, explore what are relationships in the context of marketing, branding, and what are the tools that we used to build with, and then what kind of culture emerges as we use those tools. And we'll also share at the end some reflections. So yes, that's kind of the lay of the land as we zoom ahead. And in this building relationships department, I just want to lift up one of my favorite quotes of all time. Jen Bailey says, "Change happens at the speed of trust, and trust happens at the speed of relationship." And so especially if we're looking to not only have businesses that, dare we dream, might create a financial reality for our lives sustained and our collective lives sustained, what other forms of change do we want to be creating, and trust do we want to be creating, and cultivating communities of care? Awesome. I just want to make sure that you see the praying mantis in this photograph alongside Poncho, alongside the sage, the marigolds, the tomatoes. All flourishing is mutual. So yeah, what next slide, Dan? I just wanted, in this building relationships piece, just lift up, like, what does it even mean to be a good human? And so many facets of how I think of marketing and branding and just being in relationship is how to remember, how to be a good person, and how to be a better person. Next slide. So here are 3 thoughts, again from Seth Godin, that are kind of North Stars for me as I am thinking about, any way that I'm approaching any of the tools in our toolbox. It says, any of these ways that we want to be in relationship, anticipated, relevant, consistent. What does this mean, Petra? Anticipated, consensual. They signed up for your email list. They followed you on Instagram. They walked up to you at the farmer's market. They're anticipating now that you're going to send them an email, that they might see a post in their feed, that you might share something with them across the table. So that anticipation, rather than just like, interruption marketing, which we know we're trying to read the New York Times, Macy's. I don't care that your diamonds are 40% off. No one wants to be interrupted with anything that weren't anticipating. So how can we make it easy for people to be in relationship and then to expect to be in touch with us? And then how can we be in touch with them in ways that are relevant? You probably wanted to hear about marketing information from me and not neoliberal critique. I'm so sorry. Making sure that you're sharing relevant information for their lives, and not just maybe how to grow radishes, but if you're really wanting to be change and seed change in the world, how can we be less spicy or more spicy, along with our radishes? What might that relevance look like? And consistency, whether that's sending a weekly email or a monthly email, or posting every day on social media, or never on social media, picking up the phone instantly, or not even having a phone. What are the ways that we're showing up as humans so that we can feel more human with other humans in these anticipated, relevant, and consistent ways. And again, hat tip to Seth Godin for those big overarching thoughts that translate out into everything that we do. Next slide. And oh my gosh, Mike, I think it's your turn.
All right. Well, yeah, building relationships. So that really means building community, and that's really what marketing is. So I'm mostly going to talk about in-person events, even though it's a smaller part of what we're doing since COVID. So when we think about marketing, it's not just about serving our customers by selling seeds. We also need to think about how, as servant leaders, we can market our company to employees, interns, volunteers, as well as our seed contractors and other vendors and everyone else in our community, frankly. So what I found is that community starts at home. For us, that means on the farm. And I always think that the first step to building community is feeding people. So whenever we have interns or volunteers on the farm, I cook an elaborate vegan, gluten-free farm lunch for everyone using mostly farm ingredients, and there's no doubt that eating good food together builds community. Next slide, please. So this is a typical late summer nature and nurture farm lunch served buffet style. Everyone's welcome. So just let us know you're coming so we make enough. Thursdays and Fridays, this always happens. And then there might be another day this year as well.
He's a really good cook.
So yeah, when you finish digesting that list, next slide, please. So also at the farm, we have an event. It's our annual Harvest Festival. We call it the Nature and Nurture Homegrown Harvest Festival. And it's the third Saturday of August each year. So this year it's August 20th. You're all invited. And there's a possibility that we might have the OREI meeting here at our farm this summer, and we're hoping to maybe have it that same weekend so that maybe people could come for both. So anyway, at our Harvest Festival, we have potluck and a tomato trial tasting. We usually have at least 50 different varieties to taste, and then we use the information from the tasting to kind of help decide or inform what we might put in our catalog. We usually have some kids activities and farm tours and a bonfire and at least 3 live music acts. The music often goes till 2 a.m. and usually a few hardy souls camp at the farm each year. It's a lot of fun. Next slide, please. This is kind of a silly picture of me standing next to I'm networking with a walking pawpaw at the Ohio Pawpaw Festival near Athens, Ohio, which is a really fun event if you've never been or never heard of it. Just wanted to segue for a second and say that, when we first started our company, we knew that as a small startup seed company, we needed to kind of fake it till we make it, or make ourselves look a little bigger than we actually are for advertising purposes. So we spent a lot of time and money on creating a beautiful full color catalog. It was extremely expensive, but we knew we needed some good materials to get our name out there. And it was extremely helpful to have that early on, both as a mailer and also to give away at markets and events and that kind of thing. There have been some changes since COVID. We've stopped printing our full color seed catalog and pivoted to online only sales apart from a handful of local seed racks. And in 2021, we mailed out a trifold of our new varieties to remind customers about us, which was a lot less expensive than doing the whole catalog. And in 2022, we plan to just send a postcard instead of the trifold to further reduce costs. I really miss going to markets and interacting with people. It's fun to try to get our name out there and build our community. But with the increased online sales, it's hard to justify the health risk of in-person events, especially during a cold Michigan winter.
Next slide, Dan.
Next slide, please.
Thank you.
It's a little lag on my end. Here we go. Okay. So just want to give a shout out to the Eastern Market, which is in Detroit, Michigan. It's been open since 1841, and it's one of the oldest continuously running markets in the U.S. So that's one of a few different markets that we used to go to. It's the first one that I will return to once I feel safe. Next slide, please. So yeah, regarding in-person events and markets. So I just want to invoke Matthew Goldfarb here. He gave us some sage advice at the last conference. He must have known COVID was coming. He said, be mindful of what customers you're trying to recruit into your community. If you do events or markets, you might find that most of those customers expect you to keep doing those events and won't necessarily convert over to being online customers. It's like he knew COVID was coming. It's kind of wild. So you know, we've been focusing more on our website, social media, our newsletter. And, you know, I have to say, not going to markets is bittersweet. I really enjoy the community and meeting new people, but, you know, the early mornings and long days, you know, they're tiresome. We always bring a lot of branded materials along with our catalogs. And also it's a great use for older catalogs because each year we have different photos in the catalog. So it's nice to have new catalogs, old catalogs, all kinds of, you know, colorful pictures. We have a banner, we have some postcards and business cards. And I just want to, you know, emphasize that it's really important to have a full looking display. If you don't have your product out, if you make people ask for it, or, you know, if they don't see it, you're not going to be able to sell it. So we would often just pack our display as full of all of the different products as we could, even if it looked a little crazy. And we found that that was always a better way to sell more product. So, you know, just a little bit of retail 101 here, you know, like behavior at the markets. You know, it's just if you're new to this, or maybe you just need a reminder. I don't even know if folks are doing in-person markets, but it's really important to make eye contact with everyone who walks by. It's not a good idea to be on your cell phone. It's a great idea to make friends with the other vendors next to you, across the way. You know, people can watch your stall for you if you need to take a break, that kind of thing. It's really important to be friends with the management of the market. We're constantly surprised at the support we receive from most people. People often come up to our booth and are like, oh, that's so awesome. You guys are doing such great work. Yeah, that's about all I have, I think. I'm happy to field questions about strategies for marketing at markets and events. Feel free to ask questions at the end, or I'm going to go over to my other computer and maybe I'll take a look at the chats over there and see if I can answer any questions. But thanks, everyone. Turn it over to Erica here.
So it's going to Dan or Petra next.
Oh, sorry.
I think that's going to me. And so imagine there's a picture of a beautiful farmer's market. And so what I want to talk about relationships kind of picks up a bit what Mike was saying about, you know, smiling and being nice to people at farmers markets and building relationships that way. I have been a CSA farmer for, you know, 20 plus years, worked on different farms. And I've been a farmer's market vendor for years, and I've had an online seed business. And it's been really interesting what is the same and what is different in all of those. And it's very easy to think about sales in person. When you're at a farmer's market, you know, you see the same people week after week after week, and you sell them vegetables regularly because they eat every day. Whereas as a seed company, you know, people buy from us once a year, twice a year. There's those clients who buy, you know, 20 times a year, but they're not the usual. There's most of them only buy a couple times a year. And that changes really the way that you interact with people. Because if you're at a farmer's market and somebody buys something from you and they get it home, they buy a broccoli and they get it home and they discover a little green caterpillar in it, they can come back the next week and be really upset. And you can tell them, oh, how sad that is. You can explain the realities of farming if you want, and you can give them something else as a bonus. And you can say, you know, you're sorry. Or maybe they buy something and it's hot, like, I don't know, it's rotten or there's a problem with it. That problem can pivot to become the foundation of a really good relationship. And you're able to communicate with people and have, you know, be friends with them for the long time. And, you know, adding that to knowing people's names, like learning who their kids are, what they like, and like just becoming friends with your clients, these things build fantastic relationships, which make being a CSA vendor or a CSA farmer or a market vendor really satisfying, apart from the exhaustion, but the rest, it can be really, really satisfying, that human connection. And being a seed company has some challenges with that, in that if somebody buys something from you and they plant it on the ground and as it doesn't germinate, and they might not talk to you about it. So it's possible it's their fault, it's possible it's your fault. Independent of that, if somebody has a problem with the seed that they get from you, there's a good chance, and they bought it online, there's a good chance you'll never hear from it about it. And the next time they come around to buy seed, they're not even going to be thinking, like, they just don't remember, oh, that seed was horrible. And they might not even remember why. They just didn't like it. And it can be really tough. And so they'll go to another seed company. And so it's a real challenge being an online business, building these relationships, because you don't have that regular contact. And that's one of the things, as we're going to be getting into tools later, one of the ways that you do have that contact is through social media, but I would say ultimately email is a way that you can be talking to people, in part to sell them something, but also in part to be building that relationship. And that is when we're going to be talking about these tools. You should think about these tools are ways to engage in relationship building with your clients, not just ways to sell them stuff. And ways, and you've succeeded when people email you back, when people respond to what you're saying, when people tell you when they have a problem. And these are the things that we're trying, as a digital business and online business, we're trying to find ways to create that relationship that is so easy in a farmer's market, but is not natural in these distances. So those are a few of my thoughts about relationship building, and I'm going to pivot into the tools we build with. And I'm not sure who's next. Let's just peek. Oh, I'm next. So I will start with this picture. This is a picture, these are radishes. This is a Halloween picture. And if you go on our Instagram profile, this is the last picture we posted. And so it's been 4 months ago. And I say that because it hasn't specifically hindered our business that we haven't been posting every day. Maybe it hasn't helped it, but it also hasn't hindered it. And I think that sometimes it's easy to get caught up with social media and you're targeting metrics that are likes and followers and different kinds of engagement. And that works well with social media, and there are ways to spin that positively. But I think that you can get caught up in it. Part of the reason we haven't posted so much is because we've been busy. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and we're trying to remedy that. We're trying to get one of the people on our team, she's actually probably starting posting next week, to become in charge of our social media feeds. Historically, it's been something I've done, and I just have so much other stuff on my plate that's where I've been cutting. So we are present on Instagram, we are present on Facebook. Facebook, we post all kinds of stuff, but in terms of like intentional content, it's been a while since we've put something in. Otherwise, it's sharing or just sharing the latest news. And so if you are posting on social media, there's a couple different kinds of posts you can have. And one thing to be aware of is, as farmers, what we love those of us who are farmers, we love farming. And it can be very easy that's all we want to talk about. And there is nothing wrong to have that in your feed. But I remember in our early days of social media, it felt like we had let's say 600 or 700 followers. It felt like 500 of them were farmers and seed growers who were never going to buy anything from us. And I mean, it's fun to communicate with people like that. They're our peers, our community, but they're not necessarily the community we're trying to be part of as a vendor. And so it's important to reflect on what it is that you're trying to do. Yes, you want to share the farming experience. This is one way that people can have that touch in their life, but you have to also be thinking sometimes more actively about education of how to cook, how to grow vegetables, and also actively do a call to action, ask for the sale, because sometimes people don't necessarily know that you have garlic for sale or that its potatoes are ready. And so that's something also that when you're dealing with your social media, make sure that you don't always tell stories, but also have a place to transition into a sale and a call to action. So I am not a big preacher for social media, though I know that it can do well. Another tool we have is our website. And again, you can get by. Like if you have products with have decent pictures, decent names, decent descriptions, clear prices, and a clear way for people to buy stuff and clear shipping policies, you can, that's what you need to sell stuff. Everything else makes it better. But people don't specifically go looking through your site, looking for what's the slickest thing. And I know because we have sort of a hybrid site that there's an old WordPress site and a new Shopify site merged together. And the WordPress stuff, we haven't really updated since 2016. And it's, you can tell if you have to go far to tell that. And we will, I'm sure, change that. But it's something that that's not necessarily what is going to be the main thing that dissuades people or not. Like, for sure, all doing everything well is going to have an impact, but having something online is better than not having something. And having your social media pointing to your website gives people an opportunity to get it. And when I say pointing, I mean, like if you do a call to action and bring them to your website, that is a really good thing to do. Now, the thing that I really love is emails. And I think that the thing about emails is that people, so I don't have any great quotes from Seth Godin, but Seth Godin and a number of other people talk to you about how people still open their emails. And they might ignore social media, they might ignore all kinds of other things, but emails are something that people will open. They might not open all of yours. And so we do make so we send out a weekly email newsletter. And for a long time, we struggled with what it was going to be. And at one point, it was actually at an Open New York seed conference where I just decided I'm going to post every week about a different seed variety. And this was the post that I put forward, that we were proud to announce that lemon drop pepper seeds were now available on an online store. And why do I love them? And then I counted the ways. They were yellow, just hot enough, zesty lemon taste, and it goes on. And I threw that out, and we sold a lot of lemon drop pepper seeds, and we sold all kinds of other stuff. And it can be different. So this is my voice. This is not necessarily the voice I'm telling you that you should have, but this is my voice. And being able to email out on a weekly basis does have people, they know who you are, and they'll buy at times. And something that's changed over time is I no longer write our email. Now there's another person who writes her email, Patty, and she does a great job, but it's very different than what I did. And it's nothing, I wouldn't write this kind of email. And though you can still, there's still reasons, but here's top 5 reasons to love scabiosa. But what I've seen is that there are people who respond. We get so many replies from people who love hearing emails too. So if you're speaking with a voice that is, I guess, authentic or sincere, and you're talking you're talking about what you care about, what you love, people will respond. And I would encourage you to write. You can write monthly or biweekly, but if you can email your people every week, it's going to give you helps you practice saying the things that you want to talk about. And it gives people a chance to hear you. It gives them a prompt to remember that you exist. Every time we send out an email, we see a change we see more sales those days. And then it also gives them a chance to reply to you. If they really like something, it's easy for them to just put reply and respond to you. And you can ask them, occasionally to reply to you. But so I think email is the thing that you probably should be building an email list through all kinds of ways, which I'm sure someone else might talk about. And if not, we'll get back into in the Q&A at the end. And I will pass it over to Petra.
I just want to say, I just adore you, Dan, and Mike and Erica. It's just so much fun to have this conversation. And I can't wait for the day that we can all be in person again, sharing these conversations. And oh my gosh, I just have so many more questions than answers, always. But here are a few of the tools that we engage in kind of these marketing relationship building spaces. And certainly website, there's so much to say. Keep it simple. I love what Dan was sharing. Like, it's very easy to look at very fancy websites and be like, oh, I want that, but really? Keep it as simple as possible, as fluid as possible. It's easy to think I need something customized, and it's so tempting, but as long as you can possibly just stick with templates and keep it simple, then you're going to be I think, so much happier and so much more sane. And so another thing that I'd love to lift up with our website is, you see at the top nav, there's shop and there's also learn. And so and Dan mentioned this like authenticity piece, which I think is so central. And this is where like what's personal, what's professional, what is individual, what is collectors, it gets into muddy waters really fast. But we really, really are motivated every day by, this Chinese proverb that's along the lines of give a person a fish, feed them for a day, and teach a person to fish, feed them for a lifetime. And so we realized very early on that it didn't matter if we were giving people the most well-adapted watermelon seeds that they'd ever seen or sown. If you're here in zone 5, zone 4, and you don't know how to grow watermelons, you're not going to get watermelon even if you have now the most profoundly regionally adapted organic seeds in the world. So we really lean tremendously into sharing what we love. And so just integrating also, you'll see throughout our website, like there's shop, there's learn, they're profoundly integrated. And so people it's a really beautiful, and it's a huge project for sure, but as it really lends to that, so many directions my brain is going. I'd love to just come back to the central focus of you be you and bring your authentic joy. How can you be generous? What are those things that you love and want to be cultivating in yourself? I love to write. I love to take photos. I love to share what I love with other people I love. So creating all kinds of like how-to content has been really fun, albeit terrifying. I hate having my photo taken and being on camera. And these are things that I've really had to like suffer through and learn to be comfortable with. And now I have a whole other suite of pathologies around it. That's another subject. But all to say, whatever it is that brings you the most joy in this work, bringing that to your community as generously as you possibly can, thinking about sales second, will likely, at least in our experience, translate into a committed community accompanying you on this journey of sharing seeds and building a business and culture community that we all dream of. Next slide. And oh yeah, tools. This is Ivy. Speaking of people that just hit reply to your emails. And Ivy apparently is sleeping, but Bija is wrapped in attention. We do lots of webinars and also online courses and just making it easy. And also we're making these paid opportunities to connect with us prior to the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, we made them all free. And I think that was one of the most profound decisions that we've ever made on so many levels. But it's really amazing how many people engage. And so leaning into these technological tools, both on farm, of course, but especially online. What are these ways that we can be creating really imaginative and truly engaging and quality content that will go so far to nurture and people well beyond that moment, and thinking about anything as just a sale. Next slide, Dan. I think this is where, oh yes, wow, we could talk about email for 90 minutes and 90 years as well. I definitely am very much on board with Dan. Email is so significant for Fruition, and especially just a moment to say, Mark Zuckerberg, we see you. And social media is such an easy trap, and it's really easy to think that that's the glistening, shiny thing that is going to connect you with so many people and be the needle that is really shifting for your business, for your community. And maybe it is. It's certainly part of the equation, but it's been really humbling in my last not quite decade of engaging with social media, and certainly watching viscerally how Facebook bought Instagram and how in the next 6 months what shifted as a business owner. Hot tip, if you are on Instagram and are thinking of making a business page, don't make it actually a business page. Keep it as your personal page, because as soon as social media thinks that you might want to monetize being on that, they are going to make it very much, it's just so humbling to see how much they control, how much you're actually engaging with your community from the back end. They want to be limiting your engagement, and then you pay for that engagement because you want more likes, you want more connection. It's a really, really toxic space, which they all are, right? But we found that email is a much more consistent way to be anticipated, relevant, and consistent in people's lives. And if I could change perhaps one thing about Fruition in the last decade, I definitely would have done more yoga. And I definitely would hang out more with seedy folks and have these OSA and other conferences every other week or all the time. But number 3, I suppose, is I would have started emailing weekly much, much, much earlier. We honestly we were getting emails from the beginning, but I think we were trying to do every other month that turned into every 3-4 months for the first 4 or 5 years. And very okay, that's where we were at. But hindsight being 2020, it is such a profound way to share who you are. And another Simon Sinek quote that I love: people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So how can we tell our story and share our love of why we love those lemon drop peppers, Dan? I agree. And scabiosa all day. And so how can we share that love in palpable ways? So, and you can see, this is bridging too with this image of our email. We use Klaviyo, by the way, which we used MailChimp back in the day, and then we were using Kajabi for a number of years as we were building our online courses in that context. And we transitioned a little over a year ago to Klaviyo, and it's much more expensive and it's much, much, much better. And yeah, there's so much more to be said about that. But you can see, as a segue, we'll be talking about the culture we want to be building with these seeds, with these tools, with our marketing, which I think I'm not going to get it quite right, but Seth Godin has this wonderful quote that's like, marketing, you're a marketer if you want to make a change in the world, which was a kind of mind-blowing thing for me to hear, because marketing has always been a 4-letter word for me. And where change, I'm hungry to change myself constantly, and the world also. We're all iterative, adapting beings. And so, yes, for any of the marketing shy people in the room, you're a marketer if you want to be and seed change in the world. So you can see in this, we sometimes have calls to action. Most of our calls to action in our emails and also on social media are like, hey, join our live Q&Q. We don't have Q&As, we have Q&Qs. I don't have answers. You've probably discerned this. I have lots of questions though. So we have these they're calls to action, to opportunities to be in relationship and actually more engaged community with us. I think that's enough about email. It's so hard to hold back, but Dan, next slide. Let's keep going forward. Oh yeah, and just even in this moment where so much of our lives are online, I just want to lift up, these are some marvelous friends of ours that have, oh my goodness, this wonderful gap year program. And so they always come and bring their students, and we share days on the farm together. And there's lots of other on-farm events that I look so forward to welcoming people back to the farm when it's safe. And so, yeah, just wanting to lift up how important it is to be humans together and use the tools online, but oh, let's talk. And I can't wait to do it all in person as well.
Next slide, Dan. Thank you so much, Dan and Petra. And I'm just going to keep on kind of with some of those same themes, but just put in my own things that I've learned. This is our Nature and Nurture Seeds website, and I'm going to talk a little bit about tools. But I just wanted to first say that I know I too can be really slow to embrace new technology. And I remember, and partly is because I want to do it really mindfully. And I remember very early on, I just was like, I'm not doing Facebook. I'm not doing any of that social media. And my sister said to me, it's not like we're trying to sell cheap plastic crap. Like, people actually want to see what you're doing and love what you're doing and want to see it and learn about it. And that just helped me kind of reshift my way of thinking about it. And Mike and I are 49. And so at this point, at least to our interns, we're kind of like old timers and realize that we have, 20, 30 years worth of experience, not only growing vegetables, but we also have done tons of like ecological restoration with native plants and wild mushroom hunting and fermenting and fruit growing and building community. And so all of this stuff is things that people want to learn about, and just sharing those. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how to get the information out there when we are in a time of information and visual overload. But I feel like we just really emphasize connection and belonging, and us moving at a slower pace, connection to the land, revolutionary love, and self-care. And I'll talk a little bit more about those in a bit. So for our website, one of the things I'm not really, I'm kind of a non-professional photographer, but been doing photography for years. And I just really love having a pretty website, and it's something that really makes me happy. And I think that, just at least learning the basics of kind of light, particularly with photography, and how to get good photographs can really go a long way. I know early on we had like a lot of nice photographs, and then we have like one really, really bad photograph or no photograph. I mean, this day and age, you cannot sell something if it doesn't have a photograph with it. So we go through a lot of work and planning to grow what we need to grow, harvest it at the right time, have it look nice, take the photos. It's a big deal. But it's also, I feel like, totally worth it. And I love making things look pretty. And I think that we all need more beauty in our lives. For our website, I also think a lot about making accessible to people along this like technology spectrum, because we've got, old timers who want it to be really simple and easy to find stuff, and then much more tech savvy young folks. But one of the things we've always had that I really love is we have these kind of prop categories right on the home page, and we've always had that, so people can just kind of dive right in. They don't have to look around the website. Where do I go? Certainly they can use the drop down menus, but so there's multiple ways to kind of interact and to find things. Let's see, for social media, we have a wonderful part-time staff person, Grace Pernicki, who's been doing the social media and doing a fabulous job with it, and my kudos totally go to her. I just kind of provide some, leadership and oversight with that, and she's done a great job. But I would say our biggest way of doing that is, I feel, people really yearn for connection with ourselves, connection with nature and with others. And so we just highlight ways that people can connect through social media. And with our newsletter, again, what Dan and Petra said, that is one of our biggest ways of kind of digging deeper with people. Not only do we share like growing resources, which are also on our website, but when to plant. So many people come to this. We're zone 5-2, we're up in the north, and people just don't know where, what time of year, they start planting, try to plant tomato seeds outside in April. And, so a lot of people really need a lot of help with figuring that out. And so using newsletter and social media and the website to kind of do, okay, this is where we're at right now. This is what needs to be planted right now. And we also answer our phone, and we do a lot of that. I'm not sure if we get a lot bigger, we won't be able to probably do so much of that, but we do really try to answer the phone and give people information through the phone. We also, in our e-newsletter, we tell a lot of seed stories, and I'll get to that in a bit. And then we do a mailer, which Mike mentioned, and at this point it's just a postcard. But one advantage of doing a mailer is that people have to actually sign up for your newsletter if you're using MailChimp. Otherwise, if you do, you can't just send it to random people. Otherwise, you get marked as spam and they won't send them out anymore. So anybody who doesn't sign up for our newsletter who's bought seeds from us, the only way that we can reach out to them actually is to send them something by snail mail. So at this point, that is just a little postcard saying, hey, our seeds are out. It's time to, start thinking about planting your garden, and come on to our website and check out what we've got. All right, so that is what I've got for the tools, and moving on to Dan.
So the ultimate goal of what we're trying to do, we're building relationships. We're using these tools to do them, and we're trying to, we're trying to build culture also ultimately through all these tasks, through all these things. And it can mean different things. And I think we're going to tell stories different ways. And what I want to kind of talk a bit about is one of the two worlds that we live in is we run a fairly big CSA, and we grow a lot of vegetables and feed a lot of people. And then we also grow a lot of seeds. And part of what we're trying to do is teach the eaters, where their food comes, and bring that completion of seeds and all this kind of stuff into it. So that's one type of culture we're trying to influence. And I'm not going to talk much more about that, because I want to talk about another type of culture. Is a lot of the seed collection that we have. So this is a picture when I was, it's in 2004. It's the last farm I worked on before we started our own farm. I was trained to be a teamster, and it was the career that never quite blossomed, though it was a wonderful time when I was. And at that point, I'd already been saving seed for 5 years and had begun a seed collection. And that was kind of the foundation of what became our seed company through Tourne-Sol. And we've been building it up all these years. And I'm the only person who knows the story of every seed on our farm. And we're now 21 people, a lot of people who are selling the seeds and dealing with it, writing newsletters, and they don't have all that information. So part of the culture I'm trying to influence is not just the culture of our eaters and our clients, but it's also of the farmers that I'm farming with, so that they know what it is we're doing, why these varieties were chosen, the stories behind the varieties, the stories behind the crops, how to save seed, like all that stuff. So that's part of the job that I'm doing. And I know that some of my co-panelists are going to talk more about influencing the broader culture, but you're also influencing the culture of all the people that you work with. And if you have a clear brand and you have a clear mission that you can articulate, it's as much internal as it is external. And not to say that we have a super clear brand, but as we're trying to refine it, it's also so that we can share it with all the people who are part of our farm, and that can help them also want to be part of the farm for longer, and feel like they're a part of something that they want to be part of. So I'm going to hand this over to Petra. I believe this is you.
Thanks, Dan. I'm just going to touch on this really briefly because, oh my gosh, time flies when we're having fun, and I can't wait to actually dive into the Q&A portion. So for this little moment, I just wanted to lift up that, like I said earlier, we have Q and Qs, not Q and As, and continually wanting to come back and orient toward questions and curiosity over answers and solidity. And so both online, on farm, both internally at Fruition as an organization and externally in the world, just really trying to cultivate this curiosity and amplifying being in relationship and solidarity with curiosity, and cultivating the relationships that matter most in our lives and in our world. So this is just a little taste of little things that we love to send out and share. This is part of our New Year's sharing. And yeah, I think we can just zoom by as we wave goodbye to the beautiful Black cumin.
Can somebody just do a time check for us? How late does this go?
It's 4:04 and it goes to 4:30.
Okay.
So we're trying to wrap up shortly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do the last, cover the last thing. So one of the things that we started this year is this series called Seeds of Our Ancestors. And the idea really is about celebrating America's food traditions. This kind of came to me as a amalgamation of two things. One was this inspiration from Rowan White, who said to us, "What are your ancestral seeds?" And I was like, "Ooh, I really have no idea. What are my ancestral seeds?" And so started me down that path and down kind of ancestral healing and thinking about my ancestors, which just relates so much to, you know, who we are as a country and where we need to go, and got me thinking about that. And then I really got inspired by Valerie Carr. She has this Revolutionary Love project that she does, and with that, she talks about reclaiming love as a force for justice. And so she says it's a revolution of the heart, a new way of being and seeing that leaves no one outside of our circle of care. And she encourages us to build beloved community where we are. So I wanted to figure out how could I do that with seeds, and so we were doing this this series. So what we do is so let me just move to the next slide. Yeah. So this is, we've had 4 in the series so far, and what we do is we really look at, okay, what find someone who wants to talk about any kind of seed that they, or food tradition that they are connected to. And we're mostly focusing on Southeast Michigan and Michigan and the place that we call home here. And what stories come out with that, and how can we both learn about our own stories and our own ancestors, and then wonder and bring curiosity to other people and connect with other people through their stories. So the first story we did is, Dan, can you move it forward? Thank you. Was on Malokia, a journey from Palestine to Ann Arbor. So in Southeast Michigan, here in Dearborn, Dearborn is home to thousands of Arab Americans, and Michigan is home to 200,000 Arab Americans. And, some of them we are happy to call our very good friends. This is, on the right, this is Lutfi Othman, and on the left is his wife, Tahani, and they are both Palestinian. And so the story, so we told a story and their story, they told us their story, and we made a story out of it to talk about their story with Malokia, or Malachia, if I can say it correctly. So that's this beautiful big green plant you see here on the left. And it grows big and tall, and it's eaten like spinach. And here's Lutfi with a dish. The dish is also called Malachia. And it makes this beautiful green, almost like a spinach stew. And so they taught us about how it's traditionally prepared. And of course, every family has their own recipe of how it's prepared. And Tahani and Lutfi have their own recipe. But in the story, we also share how it is that they came to America. They both came here because they were refugees during during the Six-Day War in 1967, and both ended up coming here to flee the strife that was happening, and then met each other and married. And this is many years later. We brought them to the farm, and they were so excited to see the Malokia growing and to harvest it. And they were so inspired that they made the Malachia dish and brought it to our Harvest Festival. And so we all got to celebrate together and learn about this important Michigan food tradition here and celebrate together. So these are the kind of stories we tell. There's one more slide, which is really short. So one of the other stories is, so Grace Pernicki, who I mentioned does our social media, this is her mother, and she's, her family is from Czechoslovakia. And the Czech food, the comfort food. So Grace looked at some of her own food traditions and wrote a story about that and shared with that. So this is just the beginning of our journey with these food stories, but we think it's a really great way to kind of carry out, practice revolutionary love and tell people stories and learn about each other and share connection over food.
I'm tempted for these reflections to jump into the Q&A, and then perhaps we'll share some final brief reflections as presenters at the end. But facilitator transparency, how does that sound?
I'm fine with that. I think that people definitely have a lot of questions, and it'd be great to have some conversation. And if people want to take note of anything here, I'm about to stop sharing so we can see humans. And so take a screenshot or whatever you need to do, and I'll phase out of it in a moment.
Thanks again, Dan.
So
Thank you all. That was beautiful, beautiful. Go ahead, Dan. Did you have something?
well, I was just trying to get that transition. And you can take it, Michaela.
Yeah, I'm composing myself. I don't know, Erica, when you said the words revolutionary love that last time, maybe I have a lot of emotions going on today, but I felt it. I felt your words. Thank you. You all have been doing a fabulous job of responding in the chat, and there's been wonderful discussion, a lot of back and forth between participants as well as with the presenters. So good sign of a really engaging presentation is a lot of engagement. I have been trying to track any questions that didn't get answered, and so I have my shorthand for that. But if I go through these questions and some of your questions didn't get answered in the chat, feel free to drop them back in there. Also raise your hand if you have a verbal comment. We can allow people to speak. You can raise your hand with the icon at the bottom. So going backwards through the chat, early on Space Dog, love the name. My last name is Collie. When I was a kid, I was arranged in like orbiting room desk clumps, and they used to call me Michaela Collie, the Space Collie dog. So I think we have a kinship there. Starting off, did you just start off selling seed, or did you start as a mixed business from the start? Has anyone here, feel free to chime in the chat, because I think we have a lot of seed businesses in the audience. Any of you just started with seed? I wasn't just, because we do see a lot of people sort of diversified, and you want to do the seed, but you got to get profitable enough to can afford to do the seed. Any reflections there from the panelists?
Are you going, Petra? Or am I going?
I saw your mouth open and I'm at the edge of my seat.
Well, we started with CSA. We started growing vegetables, and a friend of mine had grown a 1/4 acre of seed on contract for some seed companies, and sold about $3,000 of seed the year before. And I had been actually quite impressed with that. That was when that was a lot of money for a small acreage. Now I know we talk about $100,000 an acre. Back then that wasn't as common, and I was really impressed. And I had reached out to a number of actually went to a farming conference, and I just talked to all the seed companies that were there. And there were 2 that bought seed from growers, and 2 took some risks on us. And we grew about $700 in our first year. And we were saving some seed, and then in our second year, we started going in Canada, there's events called Seedy Saturdays and Sundays, which are kind of like farmers markets just for seeds. And so we just went, and we had a printed paper catalog, 1 page, and it was 20 varieties, and that's where we began. And every year we did more and more. And when you start small, it's easy to double every year. But yeah.
While you're speaking, Dan, just if I can multitask questions here. Somebody else asked on that similar topic. You mentioned that you have 1 acre of seed, 6 acres of produce. Do you see that shifting over time? Do you have a long-term projection of will you shift more towards seed over time?
There's a lot of people. So I almost only work in seed at this point. There's a few of us who are only working with seed and a few who kind of live in both worlds. But we have a lot of people on our farm who just love growing vegetables. And so I don't see that changing. Like, I don't think that passion changing. So I think we're going to keep doing that. We have 500 families who pick up vegetables every week. And that's actually 700 families because there's biweeklies. And so on one part, it's a really important revenue source for our farm, but another part, like, I just don't think we could break that many hearts by phasing out. I do see us trying to figure out how to grow more seed. We're in the process now trying to figure out if we could scale from 1 to 5 acres, but we're not there yet. And we do have a really great network of people who grow really great seeds, so we don't have to do it all. And I don't know that starting to grow seed and selling it is not necessarily a way to get rich quick. It's a way to burn out. So I think that I think it's valuable to have a place where there are people who will buy your seed. And so we like to play that role in addition to growing some of our own.
And actually, Andrew Judge, Space Dog just clarified, question wasn't so much produce and seed, but seeds and transplants both. Is that something that's been part of all of your businesses?
We did grow transplants from the beginning. And about 2 or 3 years ago, we quit growing transplants because we had reached the maximum that we could sell based out of our current greenhouse, and we couldn't scale up. And it's a lot of work. And I think that where we are right now in our business, we need to be putting energy into something that can scale and become a little bit easier. And so that was a perfect fit for us. And we're very, very happy to move our clients towards other local farms who grow transplants. Had we wanted to build a new greenhouse and then a few things like that, and maybe set up better on-farm facilities for transplant sales, we would have kept going, but that's just a decision we didn't want to do.
Do either of the other presenters have anything to share about that on those topics?
Not done transplants. People ask for them all the time, but it's just such a totally different business than doing the seeds that, and also it feels riskier. If someone leaves the hoop house door open one night and it frosts, like, you lose everything. So it just seemed a little too risky. I wouldn't mind getting into it like further down the line, but I think ideally just work with some of the existing farmers around here that do starts. And we've talked to them about that, and maybe we'll start doing that in the next year or two.
And we definitely share lots of transplants. I can tell you lots of things about plants. Numbers are not so fluid in my brain, but it's many, many, many thousands. And we also have a little different scenario where we have every mother has beautiful, brilliant babies, Petra. We have a beautiful farm. I'm sure you do too. And in a sweet little town, and there's a great big hill. It's a very picturesque place, and we have a really sweet little setup. So it's a really beautiful, we did not intend to become kind of a destination for people in the spring. And Fruition has definitely become a destination for people to come. We're open every weekend in April and in May, and people come from all over locally. There's a family that comes from Boston, 7 hours away every year, and spends the weekend there. It's very special. Anyway, we grow lots of transplants, and because we just grow seeds, we actually don't need ludicrous quantities of transplants necessarily for our farm. So because in our greenhouse we have this space, it honestly is a really great use of our space. And I did want to lift up too, we've only shared seeds. My partner Matthew and I have been market growers in the past, and we don't like it at all. We like cleaning seeds a lot. For some reason, cleaning lettuce and other vegetables is awful drudgery to us. So we knew from the beginning that we just wanted to focus on seeds. And I just want to lift up here, like, we have so much privilege in the world, and we're here in my hometown, so we were able to farm on land that we didn't own and also didn't need to pay money for it. Some of the best farmland in the valley, and it was just given to us at that moment. And living in places where people were like, "You're back in Naples, wonderful. Can you live in our house?" Since we're not living there. So we just chose to not pay ourselves, more or less, for the first couple years. And we had some little nest egg that we had saved from working on other farms, and we did a Kickstarter too. So we kind of had all of these different opportunities to just not be very profitable for a couple years, but really be like, in terms of the business, generating its own, because otherwise vegetables make a lot more money a lot more quickly.
So Petra, we've got about 11 minutes, and we have I have a couple other questions that I want to make sure didn't get missed, but we also have kind of a lively conversation going on in the chat, which I'm wondering if we can pull into the space here. And I'm trying to read it and follow it really quickly. Benjamin, would you mind just articulating your question a little bit verbally? Can we unmute Benjamin for a second? It's a long question. I can read it too if that's not easy. There you are. Go ahead.
Quickly. Hello. Thanks for the opportunity to ask the question. I was asking about B2B or business to business sort of partnerships when it comes to building your brand equity. I was asking about, do any of you on the call, and it seems like people are doing this, doing co-branding with food side businesses? So for example, could there be a food product that says, made with X seed, or this plant nursery that says, we grow starts from blah, blah, blah seeds? So would that be another, I know we've talked a lot about, engaging consumers, but I'm curious if you all see that engaging businesses, especially on the food side, as a way of sort of building brand awareness for you, especially given what Dan, I think, said about food being more of a day-to-day product than seed, which can be sort of an annual product.
I'm just going to speak to it really quickly. I think there are lots of opportunities in this area. I think one of the challenges is that with food businesses, it's a totally different market, because a lot of people who are shopping, buying food, or going to restaurants are not necessarily growing food. So they're not necessarily buying seeds. So I think that it was really great for if you were to do that with really large companies that actually have a really broad reach. But I think with small companies, it may not be worth the time, or if you just have a really tight-knit community where you really can get your name out there. But it's like getting your name out to 1,000 people where 2 of them are gardeners is really not particularly helpful.
An alternative thought approach, just if people want to be in relationship with us and our values align substantially, yes, it may not make a ton of sense for us to be doing marketing for them, but if they're going to be tooting their own horn and doing their own sharing within their communities, sure, here's a bunch of our seed packets, put them with your transplants from our seeds that you're starting and sharing at your farm store. So our general approach is, if you want to be in relationship with us, let's be in relationship. So letting those other businesses come to us, we're not actively reaching out in those moments. There's lots of other things to say about it, but I don't know if Dan, do you want to say anything, or we want to move on?
I'm going to segue. It makes me think of something else, and some of the stuff I saw there. So I'm going to kind of do a tangential thing. One of the things we talked about was email marketing and building email lists. And so you want to find ways to get in front of people and get their emails. So if you're going to farmers market, it's a great way to get their email. But if your stuff is being sold in somebody's restaurant, that's not necessarily going to build your email list. It does build a greater brand awareness. But one thing that I think is fantastic is discovering all the local horticultural societies and going to do presentations for them. And sometimes they will pay you to give a talk, and sometimes they'll just let you do it. But I think that is the best thing, to be associated with growing, or organizations of growers and people who love plants, and go there and talk. And even if you are terrified of public speaking, it's going to really, explaining what you do and explaining how to grow stuff will make you better, like makes you practice how you talk about it, and it's going to make you write about it better and put it on social media better and all that. So that's a thing that it's tangential, but that would be my answer.
I was trying to rapidly respond in the chat and I lost track there for a second. I just wanted to uplift a question that Tamia had here, and it relates to an earlier question, which was how do you, well, earlier Charles asked, you know, when you were just starting out, how do you find farmers to grow the seeds that work with you, to work with you in growing seed when you work as a larger network for other people to grow for your business? And related to that is how do farmers connect with seed companies to gain contracts? This is a whole nother webinar. I think it's a huge need and tool to have that relationship building accessibility and equity of access to those opportunities. But I wonder if you have, it's something we've had some webinars on. We have a seed producer database, which we've tried to create as a sort of networking tool. A lot of it is just actually calling up, go to the trade show and go through all of that, those booths in the trade show, and you can connect with 5 seed companies during this conference and say, I kind of want to grow seed for you. Can I do that? And they will be really excited to meet you. But it takes a little bit of initiative. It's not really straightforward. I wonder if you have any comments about how you've navigated that in your relationship building and what advice you have to newer growers.
I've got so much to say about it. And I've both
like I said, it's another webinar, but it's an important enough topic.
I've been a contract grower, and we have contract people that we contract for. And so what Michaela said is right. Just ask a seed company and they will tell you. They're going to say yes or no. But one of the big things is you should start growing seed before you start asking seed companies to grow them. You know, like learn how to do it, because it's, like we talked about relationship building before, it's also really important when you're working with somebody who's going to buy your seed. And if somebody comes and I don't know who they are and they've never grown for anyone else, they don't have any references, they haven't worked on our farm, I'm very excited to try something out, but I'm going to take a low risk approach. You know, maybe we'll do something that someone else is growing just so we have, like, if it's something that we want to have a backup, and I'm really okay with it not working out. And if it works out, and if it works out really great, then we'll do maybe twice as much the next year, and then maybe twice as much the year after. So I think it's really a relationship building game. And I think the sooner that you can start growing seed otherwise that you're growing out afterwards and relying on for yourself, the more confidence you're going to have. Because if it's like a problem we had early on when we were selling squash seed is, like, if we grow arugula seed or a brassica, we can tell 1 month after we save the seed whether it's crossed up or not. You know, just from the shattered seed on the ground, we can tell that it's crossed. If we grow a zucchini, we can't tell if it was far enough from that pumpkin until you grow out the next time. And if you've grown out 10 years of seed lots and you've never had a cross, you feel really confident. But until you've done that, you don't have that confidence, or you shouldn't have that confidence. So get your seed skills. And if you have the seed skills and you start talking to people and growing a little bit, like, if you're reliable and you keep delivering, people are going to increase their purchases from you.
I would also add that it's probably a good idea to start off with people, tried and true farmers near you if you're looking for people to do seed contracting for you. Because that way you can go check on the crop and you can teach the farmer a little bit about how to grow seed. Because, a lot of folks are coming from a produce background and not a seed background. So start where you're at, start with your friends, start with your community, and then branch out from there once you kind of get the hang of it.
We have 2 minutes left in this beautiful session, and I feel like this has been such a positive and valuable session that we could go on and on and on. But I do want to create some space and time for all of us to take care of ourselves and find some closure for the session and how we take this information with us from this room and continue with those relationship building opportunities. You can follow up with chat in the seed commons directly with these three presenters and ask those questions again. Introduce yourself, see if they're looking for growers. You feel free to email me if you are wanting more advice on how to approach seed companies. It's something we've talked about as sort of a next level after people take our seed course. How do we help them make that bridge from, okay, now I got the seed training, I have a little bit of experience, but how do we help people kind of get into this business in a supportive way? So I just want to create in the last 60 seconds an opportunity for each of the presenters to help close out the session with a few words of wisdom.
I'll go first then. My words of wisdom are to take care of yourself, because burnout in this work is very real. I feel like I have to keep learning this lesson over and over again. And we can only be the change that we want to see if we tend to our own bodies and our hearts.
I would like to just say that when it comes to branding and marketing, one thing I wanted to mention earlier was it's really important to be consistent. Once you have your logo and your colors and all that stuff, it's a really good idea to stick with it. If you need to change it, I'd suggest just changing it slowly, like one thing at a time, so that you don't lose your name recognition and brand recognition all at once. Anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about strategies for doing events or other questions after this. Thanks, everyone.
I think it's important to remember that, just to bring back to what we're talking about, is relationship building. And any bit that you do is better than not doing anything. Sending a mediocre email is better than, well, depends how mediocre it is, but a mediocre email with heart is better than no email. And an Instagram post is better than no Instagram post. So, and just start doing something, maybe choose one thing and start doing it regularly. And as you figure out how it works, then add more things afterwards, and enjoy it.
I'd love to share that seeds grow and change and are constantly adapting, and so are we. And oh my goodness, when I think about what Fruition seeds looked like a decade ago, it's just laughable. And the ambitions that I had, the aspirations, the dreams, to just be so gentle with yourself. And yes, like, you're growing all the time. Do things that scare you all the time, and find your people that you can laugh with, that you can cry with, that you can be really embarrassed and ashamed and help compost your grief and your growth and your guilt with. It is so hard to do this work of being alive with any level of integrity, if you have any level of curiosity and care. And it's so easy to other others. And it's easy for me to other myself also in the process. And I love that these seeds are continually reminding me to just keep growing, to keep shedding those seed coats that no longer serve me, and to be connecting with other humans that are curious and caring and just trying to grow and do better. I'm really grateful for all of the people that love seeds and are in this world, and we are here to change the world and be changed by the world. And I'm so grateful we get to do this together.
All right, drop the mic. We got another round of session starting up in half an hour. Go outside and get some fresh air. Thank you all.